Would you say that it's asur to travel in a country which does not have a reasonable justice system, which is also one of the requirements of the no Chad laws? For example, China.
I think a person should be safe. You shouldn't go among Rishayim. I'm actually afraid of going to third world countries. I remember Rabbi Kirschenbaum telling us about one guy. He went to Russia on a Kiruv trip, and he came down with appendicitis. And you know that's fatal if you don't take out your appendix. Thank God we know how to do that. So he got an emergency appendectomy there in Russia, and he came back to America. The doctor was checking him out. He said, "Yeah, they good thing they took out your appendix. You could have died, but they also took out your kidney while you're out." So I wouldn't go to a place like China just because they're so far away from the Abrahamic idea. You would see the terrible things that regime does there. The fact that they had an infanticide going on so much there, I don't know why anybody wants to go to such terrible places or any place where people are worshiping idols. We talked to Dr. Brilla 2 years ago. So he's a professor, and he has his curiosities about how things go on in the East. But I myself wouldn't want to go to a place like India where they don't have good drinking water, and they have some really strange ideas that are foreign from me. I have no Yetzer Hara to want to go there. I don't see why anyone would want to go to any of these places. I don't even want to go to America. I have relatives still trapped in New York. From what I could see, New York is becoming worse than it was when I was a child during the Dinkins era. Why would you want to live in a place like New York? It makes no sense. There's most places in this world are unfit for human habitation. And on the other end of the spectrum, you read about, let's say, like one of the nicer places in this world where the Gentiles behave and people are prosperous and they have long lives and there's little crime, like Japan and Switzerland. And those places, you read about it and it's like, yeah, it's Sodom and Gomorrah type of places. In Switzerland, for example, I think prostitution, of course, is legal. And so as people go to places like that, they go to Amsterdam, places like that, for specifically just for that. And people there are selfish, and their things are too good, and they're very restrictive who they allow to join their societies. That's a little bit too far. That's a lesson of Sodom and Gomorrah. Don't be like that. I don't know of any place in this world where I personally would want to be except in Eretz Yisrael. And I try to put my money where my mouth is. I'm not intentionally trying to go anywhere else. Yeah, I'm sure there's other places where it's nice, but a person should do his best to avoid bad influences and danger. And some people are just curious. They have this wanderlust, that is. So let them go there. Hope that answers that question. Do you have a follow-up question about that?
Well, it's also hard to, I always think to myself that in addition to the fact that Jews should move to Israel from, for example, America because of the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, in the last 15 years, there seems to be an additional mitzvah to just not live in a place which is with such a degraded morality.
Yeah. Yes. Rambam says that you should try to lead a place where people are moral and ethical. By the way, I think Rambam did find such a place. Rambam tolerated the Egyptians among whom he lived. Those the Muslim society in which he lived. You know, there was some good things about it. Otherwise, he would have left, because he said if you're at least not as a visitor wherever you're living, if it's so corrupt, what do you got to do? Go live in a cave. You know, yeah. You know, he says go live in the desert. Some people have done. Yeah, the Rambam says become a hermit. If you can't find a decent place to live, yeah, you gotta keep yourself in good company all the time.
The problem is that Williamsburg isn't exactly a cave.
For Jews, it's very interesting. Jews live in these enclaves, not caves, enclaves, like Williamsburg and other places, where I remember last time I was in Brooklyn for like 10 years ago, Brooklyn, now 11 years ago, Brooklyn for Shabbos. No, it was 13 years ago. And my children are used to living here, where there's no traffic on the streets on Shabbos. No one drives cars here, thank God. And then I had to show them, look, you go into this nice, very frum, black-hatted shul in Brooklyn, and it's all Shabbos, and everybody meet is Jewish. Then you walk onto the street in Brooklyn, it's still Flatbush, but there are cars on your street. And you have to teach the kids, don't walk into the street, it's dangerous. Why? Because even though we live in this Brooklyn Jewish enclave, everybody's nice and frum, there's still tons of Chil Shabbos, and there's still a large percentage of people. They're not bad Gentiles, but they're Gentiles who are still driving on Shabbos. Shabbos doesn't exist outside the synagogue, right? Shabbos doesn't exist. Well, Yeah, they're allowed to. I'm just saying that it's Shabbos. You walk out of the synagogue, it's business as usual. You have to still watch out, like in the cars. You live among people. You don't feel Shabbos. Why would you want to live in a place like that? That's basically what Gaulish Judaism is. Judaism exists inside your house and inside the synagogue or inside the yeshiva, if it may be. But on the street already, that's where it ends. Like I wrote in the Haggadah, where did they sacrifice the Korban Pesach? Was there an altar? There's no altar. It's the only korban that has no altar. So safe to say the application of the blood on the door was the application of the blood to the altar, and they ate the meat. Not even an altar. Why can you do it? Why do you have to put the blood on the door? Because there was no place in Egypt on the street where you could even do a korban. It's so contaminated. It's a land of Avodah Zarah. It's the land of the enemy. So there's no place within the Jewish house. That was the Mishkan. That was the Mikdash. But nothing beyond it. So too in the Gullus that you have to leave. Your holy Jewish place is the synagogue or your house. But the second you walk out the door, you pass that mezuzah, you're out of the doorway. It's already it's terrible. There's nothing holy about it. There's nothing pure. Why would you live there? That's what God was trying to teach them. Close the door, shut the door, and don't leave until morning when you have permission to leave. Put the door on the blood, the blood on the doorpost, right? Like your mezuzah. That marks the end of this. This is Jewish here, and beyond that is not.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.